Let's talk about project management methodologies. I have consulted for governments and major corporate organizations in project management and strategic management in several countries for the last 16 years. I have a PhD and a master's degree in project management, and I am PMP certified. That's project management professional. I'm also PSM certified, professional Scrum Master. I actually coach Scrum teams and Agile teams. Today, I want us to focus on three things. One, the definition of a project. Two, types of project methodologies. And three, choosing the appropriate project methodology. Now, according to the Project Management Institute, PMI, a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. And there are two concepts to call out. One, temporary endeavor. And two, a unique deliverable, a unique product, service, or result. To best explain this definition, I want us to look at the three tests, or rather four tests of a project. That's scope, time, cost, and quality. So if you want to test a project, you have to ask yourself, can I define it in terms of scope, cost, time, and quality as defined by the user? For example, buying a school bus is a project. Why? There is scope. How many students will the bus carry? What is the engine capacity? What model of a bus are we buying? And if we can define those specifications, the scope, then we can estimate the cost and the timeline by which we will have the bus in school. And then there is the quality. Is this a brand new bus? Is this a used bus? Are the engines operating properly? The transmission? Is the suspension okay? Is this bus okay? How are the bus seats? Are they comfortable? Those are all quality aspects and maybe even safety aspects. Now, running a school is a program. It's continuous, it's indefinite, but buying a school bus is a project. Building a hospital lab is a project. Running a hospital is a program. It's a going concern. Now, upgrading roads in the US is a program, or maintaining roads in the US is a program. But building a road from LA to SFO, that's a project. If we are going to build a particular road from San Francisco to Los Angeles, then we have to define the road capacity. I mean, the number of lanes, the number of bridges along the way. How long will this road last? That's the quality aspect. The scope could be the miles, the number of lanes, and even how deep is this road? How is the foundation? And that immediately introduces the cost implications and the timelines. So that's project. Even your own birthday party is a project. You have a specific date, you have the scope, how many people are coming, what type of a cake, that's the quality, and the quality of interactions. And what's the cost of the stuff you're going to buy, the cake, the food stuff, the refreshments. So that's a project. So these aspects of a project, scope, cost, time, and quality, we call them project constraints. So you want to manage the project within these constraints. You don't want to exceed these constraints. You want to implement it within the scope given, the cost, the timeline, and the quality. And this is the best way to see how project management is defined. Because actually, project management is implementing a project within scope, cost, timelines to satisfy the stakeholders' definition of quality, or rather to meet the stakeholders' expectation of quality. Now, a stakeholder is anyone with a stake in the project. A stake is an interest. Anyone with an interest in the project, anyone impacted by the project, and anyone who can impact the project is a project stakeholder. Let's go back to the example of the road from LA to SFO. Who are the stakeholders? Of course, the road contractor is a stakeholder. That's a primary stakeholder. This is the person building the road. Now, the suppliers of construction materials are stakeholders. Suppliers of services are stakeholders. Now, the procuring entity, maybe it is the state government of California. Also, who is going to do the road audits? The engineering firms that will do road audits to ascertain the value for money for that project. Those are stakeholders. Now, the people who live along that stretch where we are going to have the construction site, these could be owners of farms, residential homes, businesses, owners of gas stations that are going to be affected as we implement this project. Some houses might be demolished, others will be affected by the dust. All these are critical stakeholders to the project. Now, the line between project management and general management is actually the project constraints. For example, equipping an office, the HR office, with brand new laptops, that's a project. Operating the HR department, that's general management. But buying those computers for that department, that's project management. Again, if we are going to do a laboratory for a hospital, that's a project. But running the hospital is general management. Doing a 4-year degree program in project management, that's a project. And what you're doing is actually you're managing a project. That's project management because there is scope. There is the content you're going to study, the curriculum you're going through. Then there is the cost, the tuition fees, the hostel, the cost of accommodation, the cost of books and other learning materials. Then there's a timeline. How long is this program going to take? And then there is a quality. What are you going to learn out of this program? What type of a project manager will you be? Will you be able to manage stakeholders, to negotiate with contractors? Will you be able to use project management tools like MS Project and ClickUp, Muddy.com? Will you be able to use such tools? Is this program incorporating artificial intelligence for the project manager to help with a couple of things like project scheduling, producing project documents? What type of a project manager will you be? What will you leave that college with as the quality? So in that case, doing a 4-year degree course in project management is a project, but running that college is a program. Running that college is general management. Doing that course is project management. What I'm teaching you today, this particular lecture, is a project. It has specific scope. That's the course outline, the content I want to cover. I told you in advance my course objectives, the lecture objectives. There is a cost on my part. You might not be paying anything, but there is a cost on my part for doing this particular video. There is the quality. What are you taking home as a learner? How much are you benefiting from this video? And there is the duration, the couple of minutes we are going to spend together. So this is a project. But if I'm going to stay here every week giving you courses on project management, then it's no longer a project, it becomes a program. Now, types of project methodologies. There are primarily 3 types of project methodologies: Waterfall, Agile, and Hybrid. Let's examine each of them. Now, the Waterfall model derives its name from that word, that term, waterfall. What that means is, once I finish one phase, I go to the next, then the next phase, then the next phase. And I can't go to the 3rd phase before I finish phase 2. I can't do phase 2 of the project before I'm done with phase 1. So just like a waterfall, water does not fall up the hill. It falls down the hill. And once it has fallen a certain height, that's it. It can't go up. It has to continue down and down and down. So I have to finish project requirements before I go to project design. I have to finish project design before I go to development. I have to finish development before I go to testing. I have to finish testing before I deploy the product. And I have to deploy it in the marketplace before I can go into maintenance. Now, that's why we call it waterfall model, also known as the predictive or the traditional model. Predictive in the sense that I already know the scope at the requirement stage. The project scope is determined at the requirement stage. And if I can determine the scope, then I can estimate the cost and the timeline, and we can define the quality. This is the traditional approach for implementing projects. This is exactly how projects have been implemented for millennia. You know, the pyramids of Giza, the Great Wall of China, the hanging walls of Babylon. This is exactly how people have implemented projects throughout human history until recently. So under this model, project activities are broken down into linear sequential phases. Linear sequential. The phases are both linear, they are not cyclic, one following the other. It's a clear sequence. Each phase relies upon the deliverables of the previous phase. Scope is usually defined at the start of the project. Classic example. Let's say you want to build a residential house. This is a classic example of a waterfall model of implementing projects. The thing is this, you must finish the foundation before you can do the columns and the corner posts. You have to finish the foundation. You have to dig the foundation before you can do the posts and the columns. You have to finish the columns and the posts before you can do the roof. You have to finish the walls before you can do the doors and the windows. You have to finish the doors and the windows before you can do the finishing. That's how a house is constructed. And then we are saying scope is defined at the start of the project. What's that? I can't decide after I have started building a house how many floors this house will be or how many bedrooms. I can't decide once I start the construction. I will know how many bedrooms once we start building. I will know how many bathrooms. No, you can't do that. You can't build a house like that. So before you start the construction, in fact, before you lay down the foundation stone, you already know how many floors, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, where is the kitchen, where is the sitting room, where is the dining room. Those things are defined before you lay down the foundation stone. So the scope is defined at the start of the project. As a result, we can estimate the cost and the timeline, or other things being equal. And of course, the quality is specified by the project owner. The second project methodology is what we call Agile project methodology. Agile has its root in software development. This is new thinking. This is very new thinking. As the name suggests, Agile means ability to change, as agile as a monkey, agility, flexibility, changing fast. So the phases are more or less like the waterfall: plan, design, develop, test, deploy, review, launch. The only difference is that agile methodologies are both adaptive and iterative. What's that? Iterative in the sense that if I reach the test stage and then I realize I get some new information, maybe from the end user or from the developers, that may take me back to the design phase. So it's iterative. In a sense, it's repetitive and cyclic. So you don't say, I'm done with that stage. No, nothing is cast in stone, like the waterfall predictive traditional model. Agile actually means adaptive to change. Once I get new information, I incorporate it in the project journey. And once I'm through with a feature that can be released in the market, I launch it. I don't wait until the whole product is developed. Once I have a minimum viable product, MVP, a feature that can be used in the market, I first release. Let's say this product has 3 features. Once I'm doing feature 1, I release it because the feedback from feature 1 can add value to the development of feature 2. Once I release feature 2 to the market, the feedback from that feature may add value to feature 3. So once I review and I'm satisfied with it, I launch it to the market. So the process is iterative. You It's adaptive to change. You incorporate change. Whatever new information you have, you put it in the project. And it's repetitive, cyclic, iterative in the sense that once we get new information, any stage can be reviewed, can be revised. Nothing is cast in stone. So the project scope changes over time. You can determine the scope at the beginning of the project. We know the problem we are trying to solve, but we can't tell exactly how the solution will be. The solution is adaptive and iterative. The solution is likely to change a lot. It's agile. So the end user's feedback informs the project direction. So there is transparency in the implementation of the project. Everybody knows what the developers are doing, what in traditional approaches we call the project team. Everybody knows what's going on with the development team in agile methodologies. There is no card beneath the deck. Flexibility in project design, development, testing, and deployment. Adapting to change, to new information. Whatever we get along the way, we incorporate it in the project. Now, Agile has two broad approaches. And I'm going to use an example so that I make this clear. Iterative and incremental. These are the two approaches to Agile project methodologies. Iterative means we take feedback, but we have a single delivery at the end of the project. Incremental means we use feedback, of course, from the end user for multiple deliveries of features along the project journey. Now, let me use a very simple example that will explain. Let's assume our company is Microsoft and we are developing MS Office. Iterative means I develop MS Office, and once the entire office is done, I release it to the market as a single delivery. That's iterative. Incremental means once I'm done with MS Word, I release to the market. Once I'm done with MS PowerPoint, I release to the market. Once I'm through building MS Excel, I release it to the market. I don't wait until the whole MS Office is ready. Whatever feature is ready, minimum viable product, we release it to the market. And the advantage with that, once we release MS Word to the market, we are going to get some feedback that will help us as we develop MS PowerPoint. So if we are going to release feature after feature after feature, we call it incremental. That's multiple deliveries. But if we are going to have a single delivery, yes, we are getting the feedback from the market, but we want to release a single delivery at the end of the project, then that's iterative. Now, the third project methodology is hybrid project methodology. This, this is a combination of predictive, the waterfall traditional model, with any combination of agile, whether it's iterative or incremental. So any combination of waterfall with a combination of waterfall with iterative or incremental agile methodologies is what we call hybrid. Let me give you two examples. I think people understand more when we give examples. You want to build a car like Tesla. Now, the body part, you can use the waterfall, predictive traditional approach, because the body of a car is known. It has been done there for over a century. So in terms of the body, the tires, the engine, the transmission, the car seats, everything to do with the body of the vehicle, we can use the predictive approach. But in terms of the software that is built in that vehicle, we are going to use Agile. So the infrastructure of this vehicle is using the predictive waterfall traditional model, and then the software is using the Agile methodology. In that case, we call it a hybrid, because in this project of this car, we are using both the traditional and the Agile to have this product. So in that case, that's a hybrid project methodology. Another example, you want to build a desktop computer or a laptop or a tablet, but then you want to do both the hardware and the software. So you can use the predictive traditional waterfall model for the hardware, and then you can use the Agile for the software. In that case, you're building that laptop using a hybrid project methodology. Now, There is a debate around the term methodology in regard to Agile. Is Agile a methodology? There are people who are uncomfortable calling Agile methodologies, and for good reasons. Because strictly speaking, Agile is a set of values and principles. Agile is actually a mindset, it's a philosophy. It's a philosophy that adapts to change, that incorporates flexibility. That means there are hundreds of methods we call Agile, so long as the mindset is that of incorporating change, getting the feedback from the user, so long as there is the adaptive, iterative approach to project management, so long as that is the mindset and the philosophy, then we call it Agile methodology. So the Agile Manifesto was actually drawn in the year 2001, and it comprises 4 foundational values and 12 supporting principles. In this particular lecture, I'm not going to discuss the 12 supporting principles. I have a separate video in this YouTube channel on Agile project methodologies. You can go there for details. But I'm going to mention briefly the 4 foundational values of Agile project management, because the next agenda in this lecture, our next objective is how to select a project methodology, when to select predictive, when to select Agile, when to select hybrid. And for you to make informed decisions, we need to understand the Agile values. So let me mention the 4 Agile values quickly. So when it comes to Agile project management, we choose individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Number 2, we choose a working software over comprehensive feedback. 3, we choose customer collaboration over contract negotiation. And 4, we choose responding to change over following a plan. While items on the right are important, if we have to make a choice between the items on the left and items on the right, we choose items on the left. We prefer items on the left over items on the right. I repeat and I emphasize, the items on the right are important. For example, project processes and tools are important, but not at the expense of how individuals interact, not at the expense of people and how they interact. The people implementing the project team, and how they interact is more important than the processes and the tools they use. Number 2, having a working software is more important than documenting the process and having a lot of project documents. Number 3, having the customer collaborate, the customer buy-in, the end user being on the same page with the developers is more important than negotiating contracts. Number 4, responding to change at the Agile methodologies because of feedback from the end user or something that developers have learned, new information. That's more important than trying to follow a project plan. This is what we call the Agile values. So if there is any methodologies, allow me to use that term, methodology, that employs these 4 values, then that methodology, we deem it as Agile, if it follows these 4 values. Because Agile is an umbrella term that encompasses a wide array of methods and practices. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but rather a flexible mindset that can be adapted to various contexts and industries. And I tell you, there are hundreds and hundreds of methodologies that actually employ Agile values, Agile philosophy, Agile mindset, Agile way of thinking. But let me just mention 4. Let me call out 4 of them, the most popular. One is Extreme Programming, or XP, then Lean, number 3 is Scrum, and number 4 is Kanban. XP basically focuses on speed and simplicity. Lean focuses on reducing waste and increasing value. That means if it's not contributing to the project deliverable, you don't focus on it. Scrum focuses on short development cycles, which we call sprints. Kanban, from 2 terms, Kanban, visual board. It's a Japanese term for visual board. It focuses on the project workflow. Now, with all due respect to all Agile methodologies, Scrum is by far the most popular. And actually, I'm a Scrum Master, I'm a Scrum coach, I coach Scrum teams in the adoption of the Scrum framework and Agile methodologies. I have done separate videos on each of these 4 Agile methodologies. So in my YouTube channel, you can check XP, you can check Lean, you can check a video dubbed Scrum Master, and you can check another video on Kanban. As I said earlier, I have another video on Agile methodologies. And by the way, I have a whole course on Scrum Master in Udemy, a whole course. Even if you are interested in sitting for Scrum Master certifications, I have a whole course which is very comprehensive, but very simplified, with even exam questions and answers that I have given and discussed with you to prepare you for any Scrum Master professional certification that you may wish to undertake. You just need to go to Udemy. It's an online platform for learning, and check Dr. K.N. Jacob. Now, how do you choose a given project methodology? On your screen, I've listed 10 considerations of a project methodology. Let me first call out 3: project scope, project budget, and project timeline, because those are the most critical. What that means, if I know the scope of the project at the start of the project, if I can tell the scope at the beginning of the project, then it means I can predict the budget with a certain degree of accuracy, and I can actually estimate the time within a certain confidence interval. Then in that case, I need to go predictive, the traditional way, the waterfall model. If I do not know the scope in advance, then there is no way I can estimate the budget and the timeline. In that case, I go agile. So for example, if we are constructing a road, we are doing mining, we are constructing a gas station, we are putting up a power project, whether it's hydro or nuclear power line, power project, all that I can go predictive because we already know the scope. So we can estimate the budget and the timeline within a certain confidence interval. If the scope cannot be determined from the start, then we go agile. Now, if you know part of the scope and part you do not know, then we go hybrid. For example, we want to build a phone. And in this case, we can use the predictive for the hardware, and we can use the agile for the software in the phone. Then in that case, it's hybrid. Number 4, if the project is complex, we don't really know how the scope will look like. We know the problem, but we can't tell with certainty how the solution will look like. Then we go agile. If the project risks are high, we go predictive to minimize them. If the risks are too high, then we would rather control them from the beginning. Number 6, if the project is very flexible, it's extremely versatile, then we go agile. If the project type, then number 7, depends on the project type. For example, construction projects, by and large, predictive. Software projects, by and large, agile. Now, project team. If the project team is conversant with agile methodologies, then you can employ agile methodologies. Otherwise, use predictive or train them. Bring them up to speed. And you have to be careful how you're implementing agile methodologies in your place of work so that there is no resistance to change. Number 9, you have to consider the project organization. If the organization is extremely bureaucratic, then you go predictive. Like government projects, because you really want to be careful not to allow corruption to chip in through kickbacks, upfronts, and government systems are always corrupted. So you realize that it is safer to go predictive, where the budgets are determined in advance, the scope, the timeline. Sometimes even corporate organizations have to do projects in the traditional way. You may have a boss who is telling you, I have to know the budget. I have to know the project budget. And they put their foot on the ground. In that case, as a project manager, you don't have a choice. You have to go the predictive approach because that organization is quite bureaucratic. But if the organization is quite flexible, then you can go agile. Finally, number 10, you have to check the industry. Most software, the software industry, strictly speaking, is in agile. I don't know anyone implementing software projects these days who is using the traditional approach. Because look, right now, a lot of people are working on generative artificial intelligence. And the end product is very, very unpredicted. So there is almost no room for going predictive in software development. But if you look at the construction industry, if you look at irrigation projects, if you look at agricultural projects, most of them, it has to be the predictive waterfall model. So these are 10 of the considerations. They are not the only considerations. There are many considerations, but this gives you a picture on how to choose the appropriate project methodology. Now let's do a quick assessment just to check whether we have understood, we have grasped the concept. So let me give you some 5 questions. Let's just do a quick assessment of what we have learned. 5 questions. Question 1. As a project manager overseeing the construction of a public school, which project methodology would you choose? A, waterfall, B, agile, C, hybrid, D, all of the above. I give you some 10 seconds. All right, which one would you choose? The correct answer is waterfall. You're building a public school. First of all, building a school should be waterfall. But if it's a public school, you have a bigger reason to go waterfall because it can raise a lot of politics. When you start building a project and you're saying you don't even know the budget or the scope, you don't know how many classes you're going to put up. You have to know this education system, the number of classes, the number of students you anticipate to have in school, the number of teachers, the number of bathrooms. You have to know those things before you engage in this project. Question 2. What is the primary focus of Agile project methodology? A, comprehensive documentation. B, contract negotiation. C, following a plan. D, responding to change. I give you some 10 seconds. Give it a shot. All right. The correct answer is responding to change. So at the Agile project methodology, if you remember the values we discussed, we prefer a working software to comprehensive documentation. We prefer the customer buy-in rather than contract negotiation. So customer collaboration is more important than contract negotiation. And responding to change is more important than following a plan. So following a plan is the predictive approach. So we go by responding to change. That is the only agile value here. Question 3. You are the project manager leading a team of developers working both on the infrastructure and software components of a product. Which project methodology would you choose? A, agile, B, waterfall, C, hybrid, D, Scrum. All right, I give you some 10 seconds. Give it a shot. All right, the correct answer is hybrid. That's what we said. You have 2 aspects here, the hardware and the software, the infrastructure and the software. So the infrastructure requires the predictive, the software requires the agile. When you're using both, we call it hybrid. Question 4. Which of the following is not an agile value? A, choosing individuals and interactions over processes and tools. B, choosing working software over comprehensive documentation. C, choosing contract negotiation over customer collaboration. And D, choosing responding to change over following a plan. I give you some 10 seconds. What's your answer? All right, the correct answer is C. Is not. The question is not. So we don't choose contract negotiation over customer collaboration. We actually do the opposite. We choose customer collaboration over choosing contract negotiation. All the others are Agile values. Question 5. This is a case study, the Boston Central Artery Tunnel Project. The Boston Central Artery Tunnel Project was a large-scale underground tunnel construction project that was completed in 2007. Although the project had numerous hurdles that delayed its progress, like complexity, technology failure, ballooning budgets, and media scrutiny, the project successfully addressed traffic congestion. Required. Discuss 5 possible considerations the project manager made in choosing the project methodology. So what I want to request you, write for me as a comment in this YouTube channel, the 5 possible considerations. Right here, I'm going to engage you and give me the reason for each of them. Why do you think? What do you think were the consideration in choosing the project methodology and why? Give me 5 possible considerations. I discussed with you 10. Give me 5 possible. For your further reading, I'm going to suggest the PMBOK Guide, 7th edition. Actually, what I was teaching you today is premised on the 7th edition of the PMBOK Guide. I'm also going to recommend the Harvard Business Review Project Management Handbook by Antonio Rodriguez. I'm also going to recommend Project Management Mastery by Jack Hayden. And feel free to post a question in this YouTube video and I'm going to respond to you, or even give me a comment. What did you learn? What is your takeaway? And if as a team you'd want more clarification as a Scrum Master team or an Agile team, or even a project management team employing the predictive approach, drop me an email. I can engage you as a team and I can engage you as an organization. I can engage you as an individual. I coach individuals, teams, organizations. And I hope you learned. I hope this was helpful. Your feedback would be so appreciated. Thank you so much.